When I joined the railway in 1983 as a young train recorder in Saltley Power signal box, heavy coal trains rumbling past the window were a regular sight. Later, when I moved to the train crew signing on point, I dealt with the drivers and second men who crewed these trains to destinations such as Didcot Power Station and the coalfields of Nottinghamshire and Leicestershire. My next job move took me into the TOPS office, where I spent many hours typing wagon numbers into the computer system, leaving lasting memories of long-closed collieries like Door Mill, Birch Coppice, and Baddesley. So take a few minutes to join me as I look back on the days when the British coal industry and the railway were closely linked.
In the 1980s, coal was king. Britain's industries, homes and power stations depended on it, and railways carried the bulk of the load. Every day, long trains thundered out of collieries across the country, bound for power stations that lit up our towns and cities. This is the story of coal trains in the UK during the 1980s, from pit to power station. Coal had been the backbone of Britain since the Industrial Revolution, and even in the 1980s, it was central to daily life. Around 80% of the nation's electricity was generated by coal-fired power stations. Railways were the vital link. From the coalfields of South Wales, Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire and Scotland, heavy trains carried millions of tons of coal each year. Without these trains, the lights would have gone out. At the pithead, coal was moved from underground seams to the surface, sorted and loaded for transport. By the 1980s, many collieries had rapid loading bunkers, giant towers that allowed wagons to be filled in minutes. Coal was loaded into a variety of wagons. The most common were the HEA hoppers and the older 16-ton mineral wagons, though by the mid-80s, longer, more efficient HAA merry-go-round wagons, known as MGRs, dominated the scene. These could carry coal in bulk directly to power stations in an unbroken cycle. Coal traffic demanded powerful locomotives. In the early 80s, older Type 3 and Type 4 diesels handled the work, like the Class 37s and Class 47s. But new purpose-built coal haulers soon arrived. The Class 56, introduced in the late 1970s, was a heavy freight locomotive designed for coal, capable of hauling massive loads across long distances. The Class 58, launched in 1983, was another coal-hauling specialist, with modular design and a distinctive boxy shape. On shorter routes, trusty Class 20s and 37s could still be seen, and all of them wore the distinctive liveries of the day, from the ubiquitous BR blue to the emerging rail freight grey and sector colours. The real revolution in coal transport was the merry-go-round system. Introduced in the late 60s but reaching full maturity in the 1980s, MGR trains carried coal from collieries to power stations in an endless loop. The wagons were fitted with automatic doors, and the trains passed slowly through loaders at the pithead and unloaders at the power station, without stopping. It was efficient, reliable, and reduced manpower. At power stations like Drax, Didcot, and Ratcliffe-on-Soar, you could watch entire trains creep through unloading bays, emptying their loads in minutes before heading straight back for more. Power stations themselves were the beating heart of the coal network. Massive concrete structures dominated the landscape, their cooling towers rising like cathedrals of industry. In the 1980s, Drax was the largest coal-fired power station in Europe, consuming tens of thousands of tons of coal each day. To keep it running, an endless procession of MGR trains flowed in and out, their wagons discharging coal that would be burned in giant boilers to generate electricity for millions of homes. From the footplate of a locomotive or the roadside vantage point of an enthusiast, the scale was awe-inspiring. Lines of wagons stretching into the distance, cooling towers billowing steam, and the constant rumble of freight keeping Britain's lights on. But the 1980s were not without turmoil. The miners' strike of 1984 to 85 shook Britain to its core and brought coal transport to a virtual halt. For a year, many coal trains stood idle as communities clashed over the future of the industry. Picket lines formed at colliery gates, clashes with police dominated the news, and coal supply dwindled to crisis levels. Railways, too, were caught in the crossfire. Empty wagons sat in sidings, and the once busy coal routes fell silent. Even after the strike ended, the industry never fully recovered. Colliery closures gathered pace, power stations began burning less coal, and government policy increasingly shifted towards alternative energy sources. By the late 1980s, the seemingly endless flow of coal trains was thinning, their dominance slowly fading into history. Today, coal is no longer central to Britain's power supply. Environmental concerns and the push for cleaner energy have relegated coal to the margins. The once familiar sight of endless coal trains, with their thunderous locomotives and long rakes of wagons, has disappeared from the main line. But in the 1980s, they were everywhere, a symbol of industry, power, and the sheer scale of Britain's rail network. For those who lived through it, the memory remains vivid. The dust, the noise, the power stations lit against the night sky, and the locomotives straining on heavy grades. From the pithead bunkers to the mighty cooling towers, coal trains told the story of a nation still running on black gold. And for those who stood on bridges or station platforms, watching them pass in BR blue or rail freight grey, they remain one of the most iconic sights of British Rail's final great industrial era. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, especially if you can fill any of our unknown sections. Keep an eye out for more videos coming soon.